So that is a little bit of housekeeping. Let's get into the resource itself. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are a digital primary source publisher. So this is a digital primary source collection. It focuses predominantly on 5 American cities. Primary source material from all 5. And those 5 cities are Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, New York, and then towns and cities across North Carolina. You can see that here in the homepage description. And it's a collection which focuses on different angles and different aspects of the African American community across these 5 cities through a series of different document types, really, including correspondence, official organizational reports, records and meeting minutes from said organizations, as well as pamphlets, newspaper clippings, and a really wide range of in-depth oral histories, which we'll be looking at a little bit later. So I'm just going to click into the Introduction tab at the top here. So to give you an idea of the scope of this material, the earliest document is 1810, and that moves right through to 1985 is what we say. So 1810 to 1985 is what is the coverage of this resource. So this is the Introduction tab. This is going to be a really good place to come if you want to find out about the nature of the material, which archives we've included, a bit more information about how to use the resource itself, a bit more about the functionality. But I'm actually going to click into the Nature and Scope page here so we can find out a bit more about the material. So you can see here some of the key themes. I've mentioned some of the document types already, but some of the key themes we can see here. Obviously, civil rights and Black Power during the period was very important, as well as education and desegregation around that. Employment, labour and business, and labour sort of movements within the African American communities across the United States. So this is a fantastic resource, not just for scholars of African American history or US history, but scholars who are looking into US business history and labour history. As well as there's a lot of material as well on arts and culture and how the scene develops from the end of the 19th century through to the 1980s, really, and how arts and culture was living and breathing within these communities. So I'm just going to scroll down here. We've sourced material from many archives across the United States, as we do with most of our resources. So this is actually just a breakdown of the collections that appear from each archive. So if there's something that a particular set of papers or a certain archive that you're interested in, or maybe some upper level researchers at your institution are interested in, this is going to be a great place to come. Just a reminder, it's the Nature and Scope page. So let's just scroll down and have a look at source archives. You can see Atlanta History Center there, UNC Chapel Hill from their special collections. Really extensive collection from the University of Illinois Chicago. So there we are. That's just a bit about the source of the material itself. You can read up, if you already have access, you can read up about a bit more about that yourselves. Let's head back to the home page, click at the banner, click on the banner at the top. So let's click into the main documents list here. You can see, sorry about that. You can see the main sort of navigational black bar at the top here. So if we click into documents, we can see the full documents list. Now, if you know the name of a document that you're looking for, you can just jump to the letter. But if you want to filter your documents list without running a search, you can use any of these browse by filters at the top here. So we mentioned already some of the document types in this resource. This is a full list of all the document types, so I'll just leave that there for a second. You can also refine your documents list by the archive and the materials sourced from, as well as the key themes. We index every single document in this resource with a key theme, and this is to make sure that material is as accessible as possible for all levels of researchers. So if you're looking at, if an undergraduate student has been set a paper on employment in Chicago for African American men, then you can choose the employment and labour theme and apply that theme, and it will just show you documents that have been indexed for that specific theme. So a nice accessible way for, particularly for undergraduate students, to get to use this material. And you can also refine by collection as well, more importantly. So the collections, obviously, they don't distinguish by library, but what you can do, for example, is select a collection, apply that. I won't do that just now. Apply that. It will filter just material from that collection, and then you can view the library, or you can look at the themes that are applied to each of those documents. So what I'm going to do is that's a bit about browsing just the full documents list itself. You can jump to pages using here and using the next button, and clear filters just with this little button here. I'm actually going to run a search up in the top right hand corner here. We do have an advanced search page here, but I'm just going to run I will run an advanced search. Basic search bars here. Let's click into the advanced search page. So first of all, you can see here a pretty standard advanced search page. You can combine search values here using Boolean connectors. We can stem words, enter a proximity for our values, refine the date, or we can just search for a particular document type or any of the filters that we saw on the Browse By page, full documents list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a search for the messenger. Before I run this search, just to point out the popular searches on the. And these are just a few. You can see the full list by clicking this button here. But these are just a few, and this is a really good starting place for undergraduate students as well, who maybe don't understand the full scope or the sort of key areas of the resource. The popular searches are going to be a really good starting place for anyone who's new to this resource. So as we were doing, so run a search for the messenger, and I just want to show material from 1927. Just a reminder, if anyone has any questions throughout, please feel free to put them in the chat window. So just from 1927. Let's run that search. I mean, I could refine my document type, but I won't for now. Let's run a search, see what we get back. Okay. You can see here our search at the top. Messenger, just material from 1927. As with the main documents list, we can filter our search results with any of these. Only material types that are available will be you'll be able to click into them. We can actually also sort our search results as well, so we can sort by title ascending, sort by date ascending, descending, or any of these. Let's take a look at the library where they come from, maybe the themes. So I just want to click into this issue here. So we click in from our search results page. And once we click in from our search results page, we get to what we call the document details list. And this is document details page. And this is going to be the page where you view all your search hits. It's going to be where you can scroll through the pages of this magazine using the thumbnail view across the top. The red boxes indicate where our search results appear. So if our search results appear on this page, it'll be circled in red. So we can use the thumbnail view across the top here. We can see our search results and just a little cutout of where our search results. Obviously, this is the title of the magazine, so it's going to be in print at the top of every page. But we can sort our search results by by pages, the order of the pages, the relevance, or the number of hits. We can actually also view just visual material from this particular document, as well as a little bit of metadata about that. If we move back to the full text result. So what we can also pull this show details down here, and we can view all the metadata for this particular magazine issue. You can see here it's sourced from the Newberry Library, from the Pullman Company archives. A little bit of bio about what this magazine is, about what the collection is itself, as well as I mentioned before, some key themes that our editors and keywords that our editors have indexed this document with. So I'm just going to hide that metadata. A little bit of functionality around here. If this document's useful and you think you may need it at a later point, you can add it to your personal repository. So I can just add that to my archives. It's added. So once I click into my archive, which is my personal repository, it will be at the top here. So you can see me wiggling my mouse. That's me logged in. There's my lightbox, which is for individual pages, and my archive, which is for full documents. So if this magazine is something that is going to be useful to my research, or maybe I want to show my class at a later point, I can save that, and either me or my students can access that at a later point. So I'm actually just going to use the thumbnail view across the top here to, let's click into this image here. So just a bit of background about this document, about the Messenger magazine. So the Messenger was a political and literary magazine for African American men and women. And it became particularly influential and important in the development of the Harlem Renaissance. It was after the 1920s, it really became a platform for upcoming African American writers and people interested in literature, really. And the issues, the run of issues that we have in this collection have articles on music, art, identity politics, identity as a concept, as well as some really interesting illustrations, artwork, and advertisements actually. So we've clicked in from the document details page. We've clicked into one thumbnail, and we come to this page here. We pull this drop down here, and this will basically allow us to flick between visual material in this issue. We can see here we ran a search for the Messenger right at the start on that advanced search page. Our search results are going to be highlighted, and that's because all the printed material, which is 95% of this resource, is all full text searchable. So we do index every document really extensively, but all the printed material is full text searchable, and they'll be highlighted on the pages, as you can see here. So I just want to zoom in. I'm actually going to use this button here to toggle full screen. I just want to show you the table of contents for this particular issue of the magazine. As I mentioned at the start, arts and culture is one of the key themes of this resource. So actually really interesting for maybe members of English literature faculty or comparative literature faculty. Some really interesting magazines and periodicals and ephemera that is going to be of interest to anyone studying 19th or late 19th, mid 20th century literature. So let's just untoggle that full screen. Let's head back to the home page now. Just conscious of time, so I just want to get a couple more documents in, and then we'll show some of the interactive features as well. So I just want to head into the main documents list. So we looked at these filters across the top. I'm actually going to use one of these now. I just want to have a look at Chicago Urban League records, apply that. Now the records from the Chicago Urban League is a really extensive and important collection within this resource, and it shines a lot of light on both the struggles within Chicago as a city, but also the activism and legal battles and sort of movements on a national scale as well. It's a really extensive collection and shines a lot of light nationwide as well as the Illinois area. So just refined by that. So I'm going to quickly just pull this right down so we can get a look at just how extensive this particular set of records are. A lot of reports and official correspondence. I just don't want to... I'm actually going to search something quite particular now. So let's run a search for CUL report, as in Chicago Urban League, and web. Now this is going to bring back a very particular document that I'm looking for. So just a bit of background about the Chicago Urban League itself. So as you saw before, we have a lot of correspondence reports and ephemera from this particular organisation, and that covers 1910 up to 1980. And the CUL was a really influential organisation that campaigned for fairer and equal rights for African Americans, as I mentioned, both in Chicago and nationwide, in regards to housing, health, employment, as well as other social issues. So let's click into this report here. Now, the Web of Racism is quite an infamous and famous report that the CUL published. And this was written in, actually I can just pull the metadata down here to see when this was written. So March 1968 this was written. And it's a report that, click this image here. Oh, wrong one. And this is basically a report that looks at the Jim Crow laws and how they were still in the late 1960s being used to enforce segregation and discrimination that the CUL saw as completely unacceptable, and this report documents that. So if we just toggle this full screen, as you can see here, really clear prints. So you're not going to have any trouble reading any of the printed material. So I'll just leave that there so you can have a quick scan. So this is just one example of many documents from the Chicago Urban League that we have. I'm just going to head back to the home page. So as well as campaigning, sort of campaigning for civil rights, equal rights, such as the Chicago Urban League did, there's also a lot of material on housing. And I just want to run a search here for... Just run a search for Los Angeles, in quotes. You don't need to use quotes, but it just narrows it down rather than searching for loss on its own. So run a search for Los Angeles and housing. Just to reiterate, I mean, we're only looking at a few documents today. I mean, we really don't have much time, so I really do urge you to, if you already have access, fantastic, please feel free to go away, explore it for yourself, look at the introduction tab, and get to know some of the key themes, the document types a little bit better. If you don't have access, please feel free to request a free trial. They're non-obligation. If you're attached to an academic institution like a school or an academic library or university, you are absolutely entitled to request a free trial, get to know the material, and hopefully you find it useful. So I just want to show you this report here, which is on the Los Angeles housing situation. So if you have members of faculty or students who are interested in urban history and the development of urban areas, there are some really fantastic runs of documents on housing, the campaign for fairer housing situations, as well as development of sort of social housing projects across the United States. So again, we can just pull the metadata down here to get a bit more information about this document itself, a bit about the collection that it appears in. We can just click into this page here. Okay, so another report here. So that's just an example of, again, we can toggle that full screen. If there's any material that has notes or anything scribbled on it, the handwritten material, I'm afraid, isn't full text searchable. What you can do is rotate the page if it's an awkward place to read. You can also use these buttons at the top here to zoom, or you can head back and reset the page. So if we're zoomed in really far, use the home button and that will return us to the standard place. I should mention actually a bit of functionality whilst we're in the image viewer. If this is a particular page or document that is of use to me, I can search within this document. I can flick between to a specific page. I can use the thumbnails tab at the top here, my mouse is, and this will basically show thumbnails of the entire document, and I can quickly scan through. Another thing is I can flick between the hits, so where my search results appear, and so I can move over to the next page in which housing or Los Angeles appears. And I can also add this, so I'll just add this to Lightbox. As I mentioned before, Lightbox is a personal repository for individual pages. So that's going to be really useful for you if you're trying to collate images for a Blackboard site or a LibGuides, or something to be used in class where you want to collate a lot of visual material. Lightbox is going to be a great tool for that. If you'd rather not use Lightbox, you can download individual pages or full documents to PDF as well, as long as they're for personal research or classroom use. So I'm just going to head back to the home page now. I'm really conscious of time. So I just want to quickly show you the image gallery. We've gone through 3 documents in the main list. Obviously there's a lot of visual material that we source from these archives. As well as having those in the main documents list, we also separate them out into an image gallery. As you can see here, there's an image gallery for 2D material, and we also have a 360 object viewer as well. So we can see we can split all the visual material by theme. Let's have a look at view all. So just quickly scroll through so we can have a quick look at some of the visual material. A lot of really interesting photographs across the span of this collection, so from 1810 right up to the 1980s. Now if you click into any of these, exactly the same functionality as the main documents list itself. We can use the pull down here to get a little bit of metadata about that image. So that's the image gallery. I just want to quickly show you the oral histories as well, which is one of the standout features of this resource. So the oral histories are recorded video and audio interviews from 3 different oral history collections from the United States. So I'm going to watch the video collection. Now there's one in particular I'm looking for. It's a lady called Portia Potts. Now, just as a caveat, I'm afraid you probably won't be able to hear what she's saying, which is a shame. I'm afraid that's a technological leap that recording webinars quite hasn't mastered yet. So here we are, interview with Portia Potts. Let's click into this oral history here. Okay, so this is where we land once we click into an oral history. You can click here in the small viewer and watch it quite easily. You can see here there's a transcript for the entire video on the right hand side, and there's an auto scroll for that as soon as you play it. Now hopefully you should be able to hear this. I don't think you will, which is a shame. Let's turn the volume up so you can try and hear some of this.
I want to thank you for agreeing to this interview as part of Voices Across the Color Line. We want very much to get the story of the civil rights era in Atlanta. Of course, part of that is the story of desegregation of schools. So, first of all, before we get into that part of the story, I want to know more about you. Where you were born, something about your parents and your family.
So we can see here the interview going on. If it gets to if we see something in the transcript that's of interest to us, we can click into that. So this, for example, we can click into that. The video will skip to that part.
What I always thought was interesting about that time was my mother's parents. I remember my mother's parents thinking that those kids had no business going down there, raising all that sand.
We can click into here.
Started out on Ashby and Palmetto in a church. We had school in the basement. And I remember that we sold donuts and raised enough money to eventually move out to Westview Drive and Chickamauga.
Okay, so that's just an example of that's just one example of an oral history. Sound quality was probably very poor there. I was doing it through my laptop speakers into my microphone, so apologies for that. Bit of a weird way to do it, but the audio quality is very good. So just a bit more functionality around here. The transcripts are actually searchable within the basic search bar within the main search function of the resource itself. But you can also search within the transcript itself. So this is actually an oral history about Portia Potts' time at a school where there was only seven black students. So I just want to we could run a search for high school in this transcript. And then once we run a search, they're going to be highlighted in our transcript, but they also appear in our transcript search, transcript result summary. So we can see a time code for the full oral history here, and times each of these little green blocks is where our search results appear. Search result appears in this oral history. So we can click it. So this one here, and it will play the video from that point. So that's a little bit of functionality. If there's a certain, if this oral history is something that you would like to host away from the resource, you can click on the embedded button here, and you can embed it in a Blackboard site, a LibGuides page, a guide, a sort of study guide, anything like that. Choose the resolution. Absolutely no problem at all. There's also a summary which gives the metadata and a bit of description about this oral history, which students may find or researchers may find useful before they sit and listen to itself. As Laura's quite rightly pointed out, this is being screencast, so the video may have been a little bit jumpy, or I can't quite guarantee it. So apologies for that. That's just the technical limits that we unfortunately have to deal with. So that is just a really quick look at the oral histories. Actually, one thing I probably should mention, so we can embed that. If we get to a point in the video, let's say here, for example, if we're playing our video and we want to create a clip from this point because it's useful, maybe the next 5 minutes or so, we can create a clip, click that, click OK, just pause that. Now when we head up to My Archive, we can see here that, so I've saved some media clips before. So I can save individual clips from a certain point, from a certain timestamp. And that's going to be really useful if there's a certain 5 minutes or a certain few sentences in that oral history which are useful to me. Okay, and really lastly, I'm conscious we're running 5 minutes behind. I just want to show you the Explore tab. So as well as the oral histories and the image gallery, we do have these Explore interactive features which are useful for either classroom teaching. They're useful for undergraduate teaching students who maybe are looking for a more visual or a different way, a more interactive way into the core material. The community case studies, the thematic guides, essays, all linked to documents within the main body of the collection. So that's going to be a great starting point. Or you could use the popular searches. So I want to really quickly show you the Weeksville exhibition. So Weeksville was quite a famous housing project in Brooklyn, New York. And what we've done is we've put together this interactive walk around, effectively, of a historic house that was preserved and is now it makes up the Weeksville Heritage Center in Brooklyn. So what we can do is we can view each of the floor plans. So we can see number 1698, and we can move around each section of the house using the 360 viewer. So we can see here this child's bedroom. Drag our mouse around. Or we can cycle through, and we've taken photos of sort of key parts of the house just to give you an idea of some of the materials, some of the objects in this feature. It's quite a nice interactive tool that supplements and complements the main documents list. So we move up to maybe 1700 first floor. We can move around and maybe look at some of the objects in this area. There we are. So that's just one of the interactive features that is housed within the Explore tab. So that is it. I'm conscious we're running a little bit behind, so I'm going to head back to the home page. We can take any questions now. As I mentioned at the start, this was just a really quick tutorial to give you a taster of how to use the resource, some of the content types, as well as some of the interactive features that are going to really enhance undergraduate learning and teaching and give all researchers a slightly different interactive way into primary source research. Two things I should also mention are, please feel free to get in touch with me if you want to request a trial. My email will be in the email you receive tomorrow, which will have the webinar recording in. And the second thing I should mention is, if your institution's looking at maybe purchasing this, you've got members of faculty who think this will be a real asset and you're looking to add this to your collection, we are offering special pricing for everyone who attends a webinar, is part of an academic institution and attends a webinar. So if that's of interest to you, please get in touch with me. As I said, my email address will be on the email tomorrow. Just quote webinar at me, or I'll know you've attended the webinar, and you'll be subject for that special pricing. And just a bit of T's and C's, as long as it's for orders confirmed before December 18th. And that is it from me. I hope everyone's found today useful. If you haven't, please get in touch. Maybe we can organise some more sessions, look at it a little bit more in depth. That's absolutely what we're here for, but hopefully you've got a taster of the content, how to use the resource. And does anybody have any questions just before we finish up? Okay, thanks very much everyone. Goodbye.